Alright guys, today is the third. We're talking about the trig identities still. The first one on the mini lesson was tangent over sine equals secant. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to rewrite tangent as sine over cosine. And then remember, we never change sine or cosine, so I just leave that as sine over 1. Now all we got to do, every time we divide with fractions, always take the bottom, flip it. So I'm going to change it from sine over 1 to 1 over sine. And I change it from dividing to multiplying. Now since I'm multiplying, I look for like terms on top and bottom. I see sine on top and bottom. I can cross those out. That leaves me with 1 on top, cosine on bottom. So I have 1 over cosine, which I know secant is also 1 over cosine. And now they match. Alright, just give me a quick second while I get the second problem ready. Okay. We have sine plus sine times cotangent squared equals cosecant. Remember, you have to remember your order of operations. You have to multiply before you can divide. Okay? Sorry about that real quick. Something was on the screen. Okay, so bring down my sine. So that is sine over 1. Cotangent is the same thing as cosine over sine. Since cotangent is squared, I know my cosine and my sine must also be squared. Okay, now I'm multiplying. I want to look for like terms on top and bottom. I have sine up top, but this sine on bottom is squared. That means there's 2 of them. So all I want to do is just cross out the exponent and leave it as sine. So now I have cosine squared all over sine. Now I just bring down my plus sign, then bring down my sine function, sine over 1. Now I'm adding fractions, okay, and my bottoms do not match, so I need to cross multiply. Okay, always start with the top left. Sine times sine is sine squared. Bring down the sign from the middle, which is the plus sign. 1 times cosine squared is cosine squared. And then the only thing that goes on bottom is bottom times bottom. So 1 times sine gives me sine. Now I want to look at what I have and see if anything is a trig identity. We should see that sine squared plus cosine squared, that equals 1. Now I can just bring over the sine. So when I do the entire left side, I'm left with 1 over sine. And I know that cosecant is also 1 over sine. And now they match. Alright. Just a second. Let me go ahead and get that other problem set up. Okay. Now I have sine times cosine times tangent. Okay, remember sine and cosine we never change. So I can just bring that down. Let it be sine over 1. Bring down the cosine. Cosine over 1. Put my multiplication symbol right there. Bring down the tangent. That is sine over cosine. Okay. Now I'm multiplying. Look for like terms on top and bottom. I have a cosine on top, cosine on bottom. I can cross those out. So now sine times sine gives me sine squared. And on bottom, 1 times 1 gives me 1. And we know that the 1 on bottom is understood, so I can just write sine squared. Now it still doesn't match the right side, so we need to look at 1 minus cosine squared. We need to look at that on the identity sheet. Okay, 1 minus cosine squared on the identity sheet actually gives you sine squared. And now we're finished with that problem. Okay, next one on the mini lesson. I believe this was the last one. You can look on the identity sheet, and this is actually written as one of the Pythagorean identities, but I wanted you to prove why. So we just do that by addition. So tangent, I can break that down into sine squared over cosine squared. They're both squared because the tangent was squared. Now I bring down the sine from the middle. Okay, we write 1. Remember, 1, every number, every trig function, everything has an understood 1 on the bottom. Okay, now I'm adding with fractions. The bottoms don't match, so I need to cross multiply. So I have sine squared times 1 gives me sine squared. Bring down the sine from the middle. Cosine squared times 1 is cosine squared. All over bottom times bottom. So cosine squared times 1 is cosine squared. Now I need to simplify my numerator. Sine squared plus cosine squared, that equals 1 all over cosine squared. Okay, and then when I look at secant, I know secant from my basic identities is 1 over cosine, and since the secant is squared, my cosine on bottom must also be squared, and now they match. Okay, all right, that was it for 12.3 of 2015.